the relationship of the church and state. So, hi guys! The title of this video obviously gives you a hint about its main objective. And if you think that this is just another kind of video that will tackle about the conflicts of the church and state, you better think again, because it's other than that. We will also show you how they are united and not just separated, and how they both obtain equal significance to the nation. Let's start with the people who are neither part of the Congress nor a server in the church.
I think they support each other, like the government makes laws, then the church, then, well, they base that on the laws of the church, or that's how they relate to each other. But right now, parang they're in chaos, so I hope they get better.
For me, there should be no interference between the state and the church. The church is more on the political, or on the cultural side, and the state is more on the political construct of the country. And I know we have to look at the problems of the state through a cultural lens, but there should be no interference between the state and the church.
It really depends on the aspect, but I'm not an opinionated type of person, so the way I see it, different issues in the society.
I think they have
They have very different views on different.
same goals, but in a very different way, because they don't collaborate, especially when it comes to creating laws. So, like the RH bill, it's against the church, but the government likes to approve the law, but it's against the church.
Now you had a glimpse on how other people see the affiliation between the two sectors. But the video does not stop there. We also interviewed one representative from each side who will not only tell you the relationship between the state and the church, but will also tell you about the importance of one sector to the other. Let us first listen to the state stand relayed by one of the people in position.
Good day. As to the question of what is the relationship of the church and the state, in our constitution, it is clear that the government shall not interfere with the affairs of the state, and likewise, and I mean to say, the government shall not interfere with this affair of the church, and the church shall not also interfere with the affairs of the state. But that is just an ideal because in our history, as a Roman Catholic country, we see history happening with the very important involvement of the church. Experience in the EDSA 1986 revolution is just around the corner. Every one of us now could recall how the church have taken a strong stand in order to put an end to a kind of government that has gone wayward and out of bounds from its role as the protector of the people. So I guess even if the roles of the church, as to the importance of the church to the government is not well defined, but every day in our lives we see the church's hand influencing the state. But these days, times have changed. We could see that despite the strong stand of the church against RH bill, which has passed into law, the state didn't listen to the points raised by the church, especially on abortion, on artificial contraceptives. But nevertheless, these days, even if there is separation of the church and the state, we cannot avoid that church will take a stand, because the church is our moral and our spiritual guide. Each one of us even the priests are voters. The cardinals, the bishop, our parish priest are voters, and they touch people's lives in their respective parishes, in their respective barangays. And for that, they could influence the perceptive of the churchgoers by being using the pulpit, using their personal close relationships with their parishioners, and that somehow there will be an indirect influence of the church with the state in the affairs of the state. As to your question on how is the church important to the state, we cannot just define or put a delineation on what are the roles of the church vis-a-vis the state. But every day we could see the influence of the church to the state. In the far-flung barangays, especially in our province, in Iloilo and in Negros, there are places in the remote mountain localities and barangays wherein the state cannot reach. The state cannot provide for basic education, but we see churches putting up primary education and even elementary education out there in the boondocks. The church could take a role as part of a partner of the government in extending services, especially to the poor. In times of calamities, you see the church opening up its gate and giving out relief goods and help to the victims of calamities.
Okay, now that you've heard the state's perception, are you interested to know about the church point of view? Of course you do. Well then, here's what we have acquired from one of the influential people we encountered.
First of all, let's acknowledge that according to the gospel, no, Jesus says that give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar and give to God what belongs to God. That statement shows Jesus is acknowledging there is that state and there is also that affair which belongs to God. And therefore the relationship of the state and the church should be the relationship of cooperation, because the states will work for the material development of the people, for the human progress, while the church will work for the spiritual development of the people. And when we talk of people, it should not only be one aspect in terms of development, should not only be one aspect, but it should be also integral part of the human being. And it's not only for the material, it should be also spiritual. And therefore, the church and the state should work together, should cooperate in carrying out the same work for the same people, because the subject of the state and the subject of the church are all the same, the people. The state is very important for the church. Why? Because if the church alone cannot carry out the huge work for the integral development of the human person or for the people, no? And therefore it's important also to have that state which will take care of the temporal affair of the people. And that's why it's very important for the church to work together with the state. And the state is very important for the church, because it's also one way of the church controlling the people, no? Particularly channeling certain doctrines, certain teachings of the church to reach out to the people. And if the church and the state are working together, then there will be a better world.
Hey guys, now that you have watched the interviews and the explanations from each representative, we have gathered 3 main points just for you. Okay, first point, the church and the state are actually united through their separation. I know it's ironic, but they actually agree on that separation, and it lets them mind and focus on their own respective jobs and duties. Okay, second point, the other sector's strengths can be the other's weaknesses, and likewise, the other sector's weaknesses can be the other's strengths. So this just goes to show that they both play a big role with each other. Okay, third and the last point, the church and the state may have different views, perspectives, opinions, or attacks, but in the end, they still achieve for the same goal, and that is the betterment and the welfare of the people.